Welcome back to today's sessions of PHDwin Week 2023. We just need a few more seconds before we start our stream. Join us in welcoming founder and CEO of QED Energy Associates, Courtney Stevens. Courtney began in the oil field in 2002. Since then, she went on to work for NSAI, developing technical skills. After leaving NSAI, Courtney worked for Wateras Co, which was acquired by Scotiabank, as an engineering technologist. Courtney also worked with Marathon Oil Company, and Courtney founded Marathon's Technician Community of Practice and was a key member of the organizational development team that created Marathon's technician training curriculum. Courtney founded QED Energy Associates under the promise of providing the energy industry with a program that delivers engineering techs of high professional caliber. Her firm differentiates itself by having no minimums to hire a tech, no retainers, and flexible options. Courtney and her team are experts in several technology stacks that are common in oil and gas, and she manages one of the leading training, tech placement, and database conversion firms. Today she presents a quick start on mastering the fundamentals of PHDwin V3.
Hey guys, Courtney Stevens here, QED Energy Associates. We're very excited to be a part of PHDwin Week 2023. Thank you guys over at TRC for having us. We truly appreciate it. What I'm going to do right now is give you a quick start guide to setting up an evaluation in PHDwin version 3. If you haven't done an evaluation in version 3, this is going to be a great guide to help you click through the steps and do an evaluation fast. In all the years that I've worked in oil and gas, my family has never had me do a reserves and economics evaluation on their minerals. I am a Marshall Maverick from Harrison County, Texas, and my dad owns minerals in some Rockcliffe operated wells. As a matter of full disclosure, Rockcliffe is a QED friend, but not a QED client. So just want everybody to feel confident that I'm not using any client data. I took my dad's check stubs, typed in his interests and all of his well names, and we're just going to make a quick eval of his minerals in these cases. When you launch PHDwin version 3, if you're going to create a new evaluation, we're going to click Create a New Database, and I'll just call this one PHDwin Week 2023. Create. Now I went to my favorite production data source and I queried this set of cases, and now we're going to import them into our database. So our database is currently blank, and what we're going to do is we're going to import these. I'm going to go up here to this top left-hand corner, click down on that Add Import and choose Import. I'm going to browse to that production data file. And then you can just leave these settings as they are. Again, I just leave these settings as they are. They're already set up perfectly to import data from a public production data source. Now, as a best practice guide, I'm going to recommend that you set up a new scenario. So this is a big difference between PHDwin version 2 and version 3. We do have the ability to set up scenarios in a database. So if you'll go over here to database settings, I think this is the best first step. You click on scenarios, then we're going to click edit on this menu. We're going to add a new scenario. I'm going to call this QED 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do 0923. So I know that September of 2023. That's a pretty standard nomenclature in our industry. Going to have an effective date of September 1st, primary discount rate of 10, and I'll give it an abbreviation of the same string of characters, QED 0923. Under the qualifiers tab, we're going to need to add a qualifier. Now, this can be anything, but I'm going to use that same string of characters, so QED 0923. And if you come to the right-hand side, I'm going to expand this scenario that's called QED 09-2023. What I want to do is I'm going to drag and drop this qualifier to be my primary qualifier for each set of economic inputs that we're going to put into the database. Now, for prices, I actually want to put in a strip that I pulled for you guys. So I'm going to add another qualifier called strip 090923. And for me, that's going to mean this qualifier means the strip from September 9th, 2023. So I'm going to drag and drop that over to prices. All right, this all makes sense to me. Finally, if you go over to the case selection tab, click down on this menu and choose our new scenario. We need to add these cases to the scenario. If you're currently highlighted on the first case, hold down the Shift key, use a left one mouse click to highlight that last case. That'll highlight all, and you can drag and drop over to that scenario on the right. Just like PHDwin version 2, PHDwin version 3 leverages that very intuitive drag and drop feel. Pretty much every time I call technical support to ask them, how do I do something? They say drag and drop. So it's all drag and drop in these programs. After we've clicked save, I'm going to exit edit mode. And then on the home tab, I'm going to go back over here, and now I'm going to choose my scenario, QED 0923. Now, there was something I wanted to snippet for you. I'm going to snippet this menu of economic inputs and their qualifiers. This is actually just going to be my go-by list of everything I need to put into the database for this evaluation. I'm going to add tax on here, and I can't write very good with this mouse. I'm going to put taxes on there so that I remember that I need to put in fiscal models as well. So this is just going to be my to-do list in building this evaluation. So first we're going to work on expenses. All right. I don't have any information for expenses in this area. It's probably worth telling you that these are royalties that I'm going to be evaluating, but I want to put in expenses so that I'm calculating a good economic limit. Most of these cases are past kind of their initial decline. So I think I'm going to assume a flat fixed cost of $5,000 per well per month. In order to put this in, I'm going to go over here to the standard view. Remember, on your home ribbon, on the right-hand side, you have different views. You can flick around to these different views. You might have one that you prefer. I often set up my own views for things that I'm doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the expenses tab, and I'm going to add a fixed cost for just this one case. We're on the McKay Gas Unit 1 here. I'm going to add $5,000 per well. Now, I like to double click to another case so that I get prompted to save, and that's saved. And I'll go back to this case now so we can see it. I just really feel like it's saved if I do that. I'm sure you feel the same way. Now I'm going to use the grid editor to add that expense to all cases. So grid editor replaces the old edit data in Excel. I'm going to choose expenses. I'm going to highlight this case list again. If you're clicked on that first one, you can hold down the Shift key, click that last one time with a left mouse click, and then I can drag and drop over to the grid edit window. Now this has information right for that one case. This is copy and pastable to Excel. Now I like to highlight, sorry, I did not mean to do that. I like to highlight from this bottom box and then copy, and then I open a blank Excel and I just paste in. My practice is to copy, let me auto space those for you. My practice is to copy this one I know is right, and then to paste it for all these other ones where I want it to be the same. I'm going to highlight the cells. Notice I'm not highlighting like this. I'm not highlighting like this. I'm just grabbing the extent of the cells that I need. I'm going to copy. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click in this cell, this one where it says number 1, and I'm going to Control V. All right, that updated everything. I noticed my EcoStart ECL didn't update, so I'm just going to grab those cells really quick. Copy, click in there. Okay, that looks good. Now that's all saving to that new qualifier that's saving to the qualifier QED 0923 for expenses. So let's see. Got my video in the way. If I pin back that, I'm just gonna double click through some cases, and you can just see that that definitely added expenses. So we have added expenses. So that is expenses off the list. These are all PDPs, so we don't actually need to put any investments in. I don't have any planned investments for these cases, so I'm just going to tick that off the list. Ownership. I need to put in my ownership for these cases. I'm going to use the grid editor for that again. I'm going to go to ownership. All the cases are already dragged and dropped over, and I'm going to click edit. Now, I have saved for us a list where I have typed in from those check stubs my list of cases and the royalty interest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, I like to highlight from bottom right to top left. I don't know why, it just works best for me. I'm going to copy, right click copy. Then I'm going to come over to this sheet. I'm going to right click paste. Now, this is the working and revenue interest column. I didn't grab the headers, but I can see that that's what that is. I want these to be 0 for every case. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to paste. Now, this should be my royalty, and that is where I need to fill in this interest that I have. So I'm going to save that as an array called royalty. And I'm going to use a VLOOKUP function. I did check, and these case names are all unique and correct. I'm going to look up, make that match exactly. Copy that formula down. So I've got the right royalty interest for all of my cases. Now, this is the lease NRI. That's the portion of revenue that must be exceeded by 100% of the cost for the case's economic limit to hit. These cases, I don't think it should be 0.75. I think the royalty out here is probably more like 0.875. So I'm just going to copy and paste that down. All right. Finally, before I copy and paste this back into the grid editor, I want to get rid of these formulas. So I'm going to copy the whole sheet, right click, copy, and then I'm going to paste special the values right back on top of that whole sheet. Now I'm going to highlight the extent of the cells. I'm going to right click, copy, come back here, click in this one cell, Control V, and that updated all my interests. So I'm going to click save. Okay, I'm going to change views just for a second so that you can see on the ownership tab that we do have all those saved correctly. Again, this is just within this scenario. If we flip back to the default scenario, it's still going to say that 175. So we're working in this QED 0923 where we have updated the royalty interest and the lease NRI. That is ownership. Now let's put in the prices. For this, I'm going to put in a price model. So I'm going to add a price model. I'm going to delete that one. That was an accident. On the models tab, I'm going to go to price and expense models, price, and I'm going to click add. I'm going to add a gas price. I think, guys, I made a strip for us. I actually made this on Saturday, so this is probably Friday's close. I got the gas price in dollars per MMBTU. We don't have any BTU factors for this database, so I'm going to assume this is 1-to-1. You can actually just copy this, so you can copy. And then over here on our model, we can paste, and they'll all paste in. Now that eco start date is 9/1/2023, so I'm going to change this to 4 months so that these will then be the calendar years, 2024, 2025, etc. I'm going to rename this price model, and I just double clicked on that. I'm going to call it gas strip 090923. That's meaningful to me, so that I'll definitely know what it is. This all save, PHDwin version 3 has this implied save mentality. We can now use a global editor to apply those prices. So I'm going to go to the global editor. I'm going to go to prices. I'm going to drag and drop prices over, and I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see it. We're going to apply a gas revenue price model, and it is called gas strip. Now we need to drag and drop the cases to this bottom window. If you are selected on that top case, you can hold down the shift key, click that bottom case, going to highlight all, drag and drop it, and apply those prices. I'm going to flip, after I've done that, I'm just going to flip back to the A&D view. I love changing views so that we could flip around through cases and you could see that we have those prices correct, and you can see that our dates are all correct as well. So we've done prices, that's off our list. Projections is next. For projecting, I like to make my own view. So I'm going to go back to the blank view, and I'm going to drag and drop a 70-year graph because that's what I like to forecast on. Now, I automatically notice that there are oil and gas forecasts. I'm sorry, there are oil, gas, and water forecasts, and I only want gas. This is some dry gas, y'all. So real quick, I'm just going to use the global editor to go ahead and remove the oil and the water forecast because I don't want any reserves in economics associated with those two phases. Let me just flip back to the A&D view real quick. I'm going to go to the global editor, forecast. I'm going to clear oil, and I'm going to clear water. And I've got all products down there. I'm going to click apply. Okay, that sounds good. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm gonna apply a curve fit with some ARPS parameters that I feel will give me a good starting place for these cases. 3 of these cases are producing out of the Cotton Valley. The remaining are producing out of the Haynesville, they're all horizontal. So I kind of have some ideas of what I want my ARPS parameters to look like. So I chose curve fit in the global editor under forecast. I dragged and dropped that over. Now make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. For product gas, I want a minimum decline of 10%. You may argue with me and say that some lower number is good, but you know, I'm putting together this little evaluation for my dad, so I would like it to be more conservative rather than less. For a B factor, I'm going to say the minimum B factor 0.75 and a maximum B factor of maybe 1.25. I don't think it should be above that. And I've dragged and dropped all the cases here. I'm going to click apply. Now that's going to give us a good little starting point for all of these curves. I'm going to go back to my blank view. I'm going to go to graphs. I like to drag and drop that 70. Now I'm going to save this as the Courtney forecasting view. So on the home tab, let's see, I'm going to pin these forms back. Okay. And then on projections, I like to pop out the ARPS box. This is what I want it to look like when I'm forecasting. I want my case list on the left. I want my ARPS box here. To get that out, I just click this button, single left click once. And then I like a 70-year graph. This looks perfect. So on my home screen, I'm going to click Save View As. And I'm going to call this Courtney Forecasting View. Okay. So in the event I need to stop forecasting, you know, I could flip back over to the A&D view and do something. But for forecasting, this is what I like it to look like. Go to the first case, and I'm going to adjust all these curves. PHDwin, you know, it is going to give us a good first pass on a lot of these curves. But I'm going to put in some kind of, you know, I'm going to put in some forecasts. Let me tell you guys this. I am not a reservoir engineer. I am a reservoir engineering technician. I think that did mean 1.25. I definitely am not qualified to make forecasts for which investment decisions would be made. My forecasts are going to be just a first pass at trying to trend through the historical production data. I definitely do recommend, you know, going through and reviewing all of the auto fits. That auto fit's going to give you, you know, it's going to get you 95% of the way there, but you do need to go through and look at all your curves and make sure that they look reasonable. A reservoir engineer needs to review all of your curves before utilizing your PHDwin evaluation to make any kind of investment decisions. A reservoir engineer is qualified because they understand how the rock properties impact the shape of this decline curve. You know, I definitely don't understand that, so I'm just kind of trending a shape, maybe bumping it up to go through the last point of available data. Again, we teach QED technicians how to make a best fit like I'm doing, just kind of as a first pass. The idea there is a QED technician could go through and put a first pass curve on so that the reservoir engineer could then come through and do some real work, maybe quicker. Maybe it helps you as an engineer. If I've already gone through and put a little fit, you can take my curves, bump them up, bump them down. I do like in PHDwin, you'll notice how sometimes I zoom in on a point. That's just a drag and drop little draw box, and you can zoom back out to the full extent of the graph by double clicking anywhere in the white space. That's way too much B on this guy. I think 0.75 was correct for a bunch of these when I looked at it. Again, I'm no reservoir engineer. This is just first pass on these curves. I like to line up with that first point. I use this last point to toggle that initial decline up and down and change this B factor so it's a little less curvy. And then as a final point, I'll just change my QF to 1. I like that QF to go out far enough that the economic limit is definitely going to hit it. Don't want to short myself any reserves. Yeah, that's not looking bad. I save that. I think that maybe is a little too curvy. All right, I'm just fitting these, you know. That, like I said, that curve fit's going to get you most of the way there. Now we forecasted every single case, and remember, because we are on the scenario QED 0923, those forecast parameters are saving to that qualifier within that scenario. All right. Shrinkage. I really don't know what, I mean, this is dry. There are no NGLs coming out of this. We're not getting money for any liquids. So I don't think there's any field gas use. So I'm not going to put a shrinkage factor on. So we'll take that off the list. Finally, we need to go back and apply taxes. I'm going to flip back over to the A&D view. I'll go to global editor to fiscal models. I'll drag and drop over fiscal models, and we're going to choose to apply the Texas model to these cases. Apply. Guys, that's it. That's a quick evaluation. I've got all of the inputs for this set of cases. Let's roll over to reports, see what the value is. On the reports menu, I'm going to choose the detailed style report. I'm going to do all cases. I really just want to see the summary of everything. And you could choose different things here. I'm going to choose PDF because I like the way that looks. I'm going to click run. It's going to print that PDF for us so that I can immediately email that on over to my dad. Wow, Dad, looks like 256,000. I do a quick error check of my report as soon as my report's generated. Let's see, effective date 9/1/2023, primary discount rate 10. Is my gross bigger than my net? Yes, it is, quite a bit bigger, which I expect because these are royalties. My price deck running okay? Yes, it is. Got that 5-year strip with the last year repeating for all remaining years. Are my taxes present? Yes, I don't see expenses here, but that's right. We're working on royalty properties. I don't expect to see expenses, so all that looks good. Now, what if we wanted to run a high price scenario? What if gas went up to $5 and sustained that for infinity? How would the value change? Well, let's quickly make a new scenario. I'll go over here to the database settings tabs. I'll choose scenario, edit. We do need to click edit before we can add a new scenario. I'm going to call this one high 0923. And over here in the abbreviation, I'll go with high 0923. Then on qualifiers for high, I want to use the expenses we put in for QED 0923. Investments, we didn't put any in, but I'll just drag and drop that. Ownership, I want to use what we put in for QED 0923. Now for prices, I'm going to make a new qualifier called high flat. And I'm going to drag and drop high flat to be the price qualifier for this scenario. I'll take my projections from that last scenario we did, and we don't have shrinkage, but I'll go ahead and drag and drop that. That's defining what we're going to use as the input criteria for everything within this scenario. Under case selection, I'm going to go over, I'm going to choose that new scenario. I need to highlight this case list. So click the first case, hold down the shift key, click the left mouse button once on that last case. Then you can drag and drop this to the window. That saves our new scenario. I'm going to exit edit mode. And then over here on the home tab, I can flip to our new scenario, which is high 0923. I think I'll go to the standard view. And on the prices tab for maybe this gas unit 1, I'm going to input a gas price of a flat $5 per MCF. We don't have a BTU factor here, so $5 per MCF is fine. And I'm going to go ahead, click to another case. It's going to say, do you want to save? I'm going to say yes. And then I'll click back, and there he is. Now I'm going to use the grid editor to copy and paste that price to all cases. So I'll go over here to the grid editor, click prices. I'm going to drag and drop this case list over here. When we click edit, it's going to open up that edit or menu. Again, I like to select all the cells. I start down here at the bottom, highlight all the way up to the left top. I right click copy. And then I'm going to go paste this in an Excel sheet. And then I like to grab everything from that case that we know we set up correctly, copy it, paste it down on all other cases. Then I highlight just the extent of the cells, not the rows. You know, don't do it like this. Just get the cells. That's maybe why I go from bottom left to top right, actually. I'm going to copy that, come back over here, click in that first cell, Control V. Oof, those ECLs didn't update. I'll just grab those. Click here. Okay, everything looks correct. Now what we've done is we've input a flat gas price that's high, $5 for all of time for all of these cases in this new scenario, high 0923. Now I need to apply taxes. So I'm just going to go over here to the global editor. I'm going to go to fiscal models, drag and drop fiscal models. These do need to be applied for this new scenario. I'm going to drag and drop all cases over to that global editor and then apply. And then let's see, I'm going to flip back to maybe the A and D view. I love to change my views. I just do it all the time. I think you might as well. I'm going to go over to the reports menu. Yeah, I'm going to do a report on all cases. Summary only, PDF. I'm going to click run. All right, 344,000. So I'm just going to do a quick error check. Effective date, primary discount rate, gross is bigger than the net, price is loaded correctly, taxes present where we see production present. Yep. No cost. Ooh, that makes sense because we're evaluating royalties. We can compare that PV10 future dollars in terms of today's dollars of 344 versus 256. So if prices went up, certainly the value of those minerals would increase. And there's lots of things we could do in this database. Let's say next month I have a month's worth of additional production data. I could import that in, and in a new scenario, maybe I call it QED 1023, I could update all of my forecasts. You could keep this database for forever, keep it evergreen. We love PHDwin version 3, especially the mentality of qualifiers and scenarios. At QED, I make reservoir engineering technicians. We have 3 divisions of business, which we'd be happy to speak to you about. We sell training, we sell consulting services, either on demand or on site, and we place people at oil and gas companies, operators, consulting firms, energy lending banks, investment banks. I can't even think of all the different places we've placed our 200 plus reservoir engineering technicians over the last 13 years. I grade all of my technicians based on their level of competency. We have training modules coming up this fall. Big thank you to John Smith for having us on PHDwin Week. Thanks everybody for participating in our PHDwin Week presentation. Hope you can catch Frankie Delgado's getting V3 installed and Aaron's utilization of V3 Connect this week as well.
Thank you, Courtney, for your helpful quick start on mastering the fundamentals of PHDwin V3. We appreciate you coming back to PHDwin Week for your 4th speaking engagement. Thank you to all QED speakers for your amazing and informative presentations. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. Stay tuned. Coming next up are 2 featured speakers from the University of North Dakota. Demetrius Maxey and Dr. Samuel Afari will present economic modeling of CO2 huff and puff for optimization. Don't miss our next segment and Q&A. There is more PHDwin Week starting soon.